4 times a year, Robert Wagner releases a magazine called the Lucid Dreaming Experience. In this December edition, I was honored to be interviewed for his magazine and share some awesome stories and experiences regarding my lucid dreams and dream work practices. If you're interested in reading it, you can find the link in the description. I'm excited to introduce today's episode. My guest is Tenesha, also known as Dreamwalker. We talk about how to analyze your dreams, a little bit about lucid dreaming, and we tell some stories about some unexplainable dream experiences we've had. You can also find this episode on her YouTube channel, so check out her links below as well.
All right, if you want to start, please, by giving yourself or self-introducing yourself, I guess I would say it, self-introduction, and just tell me a little bit about what you do, why you're interested in dreams, the path that led you there, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, for sure. Well, my name's Amina, and I've been always interested in dreams, like since I was a child, really. I've always had really cool, vivid dreams. I always thought they were cool. And I was a lucid dreamer when I was really young too, but I didn't really know like how deep it really was. I just thought like, oh, I would realize that I'm dreaming and then I would just wake up.
Mhm.
But then like I started studying like psychology, and I got really into like the mind and consciousness, and that kind of stuff. And then during COVID, I started a podcast. It's called the Dream World Podcast because I started to get really interested in like researching dreams and talking about it, and like inducing my own lucid dreams and like building my own practice. And I found like a community of people that are also into dream work. So I just kind of like really got into it there. And now I just, yeah, love talking about dreams all over the internet. So.
Oh, and I saw all your videos too. I love the fact that you still keep it cohesively about dreams. It's so hard for me to do, just one subject, because when you think about dream work or just dreams in general, it kind of like leads you to different facets of spirituality. When you start talking about premonition dreams, next thing you know, you're talking about all the different clairs and psychic abilities, and then that's leading you to somewhere else. So I love the fact that you're providing that information, because that's actually how I found your page was, looking into dream work and stuff like that. So tell me about a personal experience of yours that really kind of, and this is with dreams, obviously, that really kind of like sparked something in you. Tell me about one of the dreams that you've had that was just like, holy crap, I need to look into this.
Yeah, I've had so many like really awesome ones. Like some of my favorite ones were like some really vivid lucid dreams that I had. Those are like some of my favorite. Where I'm just like going around talking to dream characters and it feels like I've known them from like other lifetimes or something. Cause even though I don't like recognize them, I like feel like they're
Mm.
my friends and they're telling me things. And they were just telling me about like my life and about like the purpose of life on earth and all these like cool things, and they got into all this like other like spiritual stuff, of course, but like it just gave me so much like cool information. Like it felt like they were just giving me all the like secrets of the universe. Like I couldn't even remember everything that they were telling me, and they were like explaining to me how dreams work and like just giving me all this like cool information. And so it just was really cool, and they even showed me like some of my future podcast episodes and they gave me like some motivation. So it just like kind of kickstarted a lot of things for me, like wow, there's so much I can do here in this dream space. And like it was just like a really good, like really like touching dream for me.
Absolutely. Yeah. How old were you when that happened?
It was only
Was
a
it
couple
long
years
ago?
ago. That one was like a
Oh,
couple years ago. Yeah.
interesting. Okay. Do you mind if I ask how old you are now, by the way?
I'm 28.
28. Okay.
Yeah,
You look so young. That's
I
awesome.
know. Yeah.
I bet you get that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So, wow. One of the things I love about lucid dreaming is because it kind of makes you feel like you're in this open world, like a video game, where you go in there and it's like literally you can do anything you want. It's endless. You have endless, capabilities. So what I kind of like, I'm annoyed with myself and I'm working on this because whenever I lucid dream, I still keep myself in this box. And I forget that, hey, if I don't want to get on this boat with this torrential downpour and like crazy waters and stuff, I don't have to. But then I still find myself doing, sort of sticking with this sort of already created pattern that I have in a dream. So speaking of patterns and dreams, do you believe that sometimes our subconscious or maybe spirit guides, whatever you want to call it, will be leading us toward a direction? And even though we have control over our dreams, ultimately, they're trying to kind of provide us with this message that if we were awake, we would normally ignore.
Yeah, I definitely believe that, honestly.
Yeah,
And I think for that reason, like we can't always control the dream. Like you were saying, even if you're lucid, that doesn't mean that you can control it. It just means that you know that it's a dream. And sometimes, I just kind of go along with the dream. And you get a lot more messages when you just take the dream for what it is rather than trying to take your own, dream narrative.
exactly. Take it for what it is. I love that. That's the truth, really, because it is just messages, you know. And I wouldn't say just messages because it's kind of minimalizing it, but it's just so much more than that. It's basically our subconscious. And this is my personal opinion, by the way. It's our subconscious providing us with messages that we would normally ignore, you know, because
Yeah.
you're asleep and we're no longer focused on our I would say biological body. We're now in our astral form. So we're kind of open more for that, or open to get the message. So it's actually really interesting. I'm reading this book called The End of Trauma by George Bonanno. And we're kind of like shifting toward a different thing here. So in this book, he mentions that a lot of nightmares, people have a lot of nightmares when they're in a coma induced dream, or when they're suffering from sleep paralysis before and after they have these nightmares. In your opinion, how would you define a nightmare? What is that to you?
A nightmare is like a dream that is usually like emotionally charged, usually in like a negative way, like there's stressful emotions. And a lot of times people don't realize that they kind of come from your own inner like mental state. Sorry if you can hear my dog barking in the
I
background.
can't hear anything.
Okay, thank God. It was like stressing me out. Um,
I know how you feel.
Okay. So yeah, a lot of people don't realize that, your mental state, like if you're usually stressed and anxious and depressed, you're more likely to have those types of dreams with that type of vibe. And even if you're in a dream and you're scared and you're giving off those types of thoughts, your dream can reflect that because dreams tend to be like thought responsive.
Mm.
So, it's bound to happen. Everybody has nightmares now and then, but if they're like disturbing your life, then that's like definitely something that you can like work on and like
Oh,
heal
for
through.
sure. Absolutely. I think pop culture, or no, I'm sorry, like the entertainment business has made nightmares a little bit more important than they really are. I think it's just the same as a dream. It shouldn't be considered something different. And it's going back to what we just said about messages coming through from our subconscious or our guides or source, whatever you want to call it, that maybe we ignore. And I think nightmares, in my opinion, are just like the most serious messages that are coming through that need to come through, you know? So speaking of nightmares and, messages coming through, obviously the goal is to heal, right? We're all on this spiritual journey. We're all working on ourselves and growing. Do you feel like dreams can also help us heal?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like you said, our dreams are telling us things that maybe we don't pay attention to or that our
Yeah.
subconscious like suppressed. So when we like work with those things consciously, we can like,
Mm.
it's like doing shadow work or find out the parts of yourself that, you haven't addressed, and how you can apply that to your waking life. So
Right.
definitely, in so many ways, even physically, like I believe that your dreams can help you like heal physical things too.
Absolutely. So that goes into dream interpretation. So tell me your experience with that.
Yeah, I've noticed it's a very personal thing. And I like to help people like, talk about their dreams and share dreams and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
I never tell people like, oh, I think your dream means this
Mhm.
or look it up in a dictionary. Because it's a very personal thing, like my experience with a dream symbol might be totally different than somebody else's.
Mhm.
So it's really about like, dream journaling is a really good way to help understand your dreams because you can look at patterns, and analyze them over time. And then I really like to take note of my dream symbols. So like people, objects, and places and emotions and like overall themes. That kind of helps me break it down. And then I look at it each symbol individually, and kind of compare it to my life. That's kind of like my process.
That's awesome. I started doing that for a while and then I started getting lazy with it and kind of just conjoiled everything together in one big paragraph. And then I also, at my end paragraph in my notes, I would put how I felt before I went to sleep, which was a big one for me, or what I did during the day that held a lot of high emotions for me, elevated emotions. So what is one of the things you mentioned? So symbols and interpretation and things like that. That brings me to Carl Jung. is I'm assuming you follow Carl Jung. So it's just an assumption here.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, most people who are into dream interpretation do. And I love that because he really goes into it. And I think that's where you got the structure of your dream notes from, right? The themes, the symbols, things like
Yeah,
that.
it's definitely Jungian based. I've kind of got a lot of different dream perspectives and like built my own practice with that.
Awesome. So tell me about your experience when you started researching Carl Jung before and after. How does that change your experience with this?
Yeah, it's been really interesting. I mean, I've read some of his books and a lot of his like papers online. What really inspires me was that he was really like looking at like psychology and like the mind when like it was not that normal. So given the context of the time, even though we know a lot more now in general, but he talked a lot about dreams and a lot about symbols. And he brought like a clinical approach. I really like that he like incorporated into like clinical therapy and stuff like that. And he was big on like this model of the psyche. One concept of like Jung that I really like is like the collective consciousness, which is like the idea that we all are a part of this collective, the same way we share experiences on earth and we have like this collective, just throughout history, we share things with the people around us and experiences and memories. The dreams reflect that, so like if we're all going through something like COVID, we might share certain types of dreams related to that, or like world events. A lot of people share dreams when it comes to world events. So he talked a lot about that, about how the collective impacts our dream life. And um, part of his like archetype models came from
Mhm.
that, which is like just different, like kind of like themes that dreams could fit into.
Mhm.
And I don't necessarily like to categorize dreams and apply them to everybody, but they can definitely be a good guide. Like if you see certain dreams that fit one of his archetypes, it might help you understand the dream. But even that, like it's an individual thing. So I wouldn't say that that's like the main thing to go off of when interpreting dreams.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, including myself, can get caught up in the archetypes and start feeling like you have to kind of put yourself in that box. But I do love the archetypes because it also explains so perfectly the different stages that we are in our lives ultimately, right? So if you don't mind, this is kind of a personal question, but can you tell me which archetype that you see the most of in your dream? And can you explain how that has helped you learn more about yourself?
Yeah, that's a good question. Definitely like depends on like the point of my life. But I would say definitely kind of like the creator archetype, like the artistic kind of archetype, and then the mother archetype. Like I have a lot of like dreams with my parents or even just like children in general that I kind of fit into that category. And I relate to that because I'm like a very nurturing person and I have a lot of, just resonance regarding family and mother and child kind of thing.
Mm.
Um, and so yeah, I interpret them in a lot of different ways, but those are the main ones that like stand out for me personally.
So just like you said, like when it comes to dream interpreting, a lot of us try to jump, or I think we've all gone through the stage where we just want a quick answer. So we go to Google and we search up our dream and we try to get a quick answer that way. Or maybe TikTok is another one. But just like you said, unfortunately, we all have our own individualized meanings to our dreams and things like that. So that being said, for someone who has been having, it doesn't need to be a repetitive dream, just dreams in general, and they're very vivid, they're remembering their dreams, what's the first thing they should do to start interpreting them?
Definitely write them down. Like write them down every time they happen, and try to notice a pattern every time. If you have any common themes or common objects or symbols within them, start to like map it out kind of. And next thing I would also say is like try to notice triggers in those dreams that can help you become lucid. So next time you have it, you'll realize it's a dream, and then maybe you can change it up or find an answer or like inquire further.
Awesome. That's a good idea. We touched on so many things already, and I love talking about Carl Jung. And I'll be honest with you, I haven't read his books yet. I still am on the surface level, and I feel like I've learned so much. And I'm kind of afraid to read his books because it's going to change my point of view of what I've read so far, what I've learned so far, I think. Another thing too, there was something that you mentioned that I think is really interesting about dreams. Prophetic dreams. So we talked a little bit about how some people in history have, had dreams where they were able to prophesize what would happen the next day or sometime in the future, right? Of course, they didn't know at the time and had to happen afterwards. But a perfect example is Abraham Lincoln. We've heard about that. I don't remember her name, but it was Julius Caesar's wife who predicted his death. And she knew her intuition told her to tell him not to go where he was going, and he ended up getting killed by his Senate. So things like that happens, right? Do you feel like, going back to kind of what Carl Jung said about the collective unconscious and things like that, world events, do you feel like our astral selves or our higher selves, or I don't know, source energy, I don't know what you want to call it, is trying to provide us with messages so that we can help the collective?
Yeah, I mean, all of the above. I think a lot of things could be happening. I think part of it is that, like our higher selves and our guides kind of giving us hints about what could happen and what's going to happen. Because, in the dream space or the astral realm, the non physical world, it doesn't really operate off of linear time. So it's not like we have past, present, and future in that order. So, it's kind of easy to see the future and the past and kind of work all at the same time. So we can access kind of some of that information. So yeah, I definitely think that we have like a support team that's kind of helping us out when necessary.
Yeah.
But I think, that doesn't mean we're supposed to necessarily do something. I mean, sometimes we can, but sometimes it's just to prepare or to show you the possibilities of what could happen.
Absolutely. Yeah. And speaking of possibilities, so I feel like our dream space is also kind of like a prequel to showing us our psychic abilities, and I think sometimes it can be like in your dreams, you might notice that you start seeing your ancestors, and you only know them to be your ancestors because of what they're wearing, and you don't recognize them, but you do recognize their garb and things like that. And let's say your ancestor says, hey, you can actually do this, and the third. And you're like, whoa, you're right, I can do that. But I didn't look at it like that because I thought everyone could. So I'm going to give you an example because that was, super vague. So an example is for me when I was younger, whenever people would speak to me, I would start picturing a movie behind my eyes, and not behind my eyes per se, but more like in my third eye or in my mind's eye. So I would picture this movie going, and I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm like in this time frame that they're telling me. I'm there with them in this story. And afterwards, I'm like, yeah, I totally understand what you mean. I can relate. And I didn't think to ask afterwards, hey, were you wearing this? Were you wearing, was the sky blue? Was et cetera, like details of the story that they were telling me until my adult years. And I think it was a conversation I had with someone. And they were just like, yeah, you see a movie behind your eyes in a way. And I'm like, holy crap. So wait, I'm clairvoyant. And then it just kind of snowballs from there, you go down the rabbit hole. And I think in our dreams, sometimes it's kind of like, I guess it's basically me talking about messages again. And I think that's a big one for me, is basically the most exciting thing about my dreams is getting those messages from my guides. And that's why it keeps coming up basically. So I'm trying to think, what's another thing in your opinion? What have you found out about your clairs? Do you consider yourself psychic?
It's kind of weird because I have a hard time like understanding, which labels to go with, but
Yeah.
I have weird experiences all the time that I can't explain, like usually related to my dreams. So I don't know. I guess I consider myself like a good dreamer and like I'm really in tune with my dreams, but sometimes like weird things that just happen to me that sometimes I brush them off as like, oh, glitches in the matrix. Like I'll even just like know things or like I'll see things and then they'll happen. Or especially like when I'm kind of in half awake states when I'm like falling asleep. I'll get like messages and things there. So these things that happen to me throughout my life. And I think I'm starting to like really understand them more and kind of like hone in on whatever abilities.
No, it's really interesting. Why do you think, with dreams being so prevalent in our history and all these different walks of life and people in history, it's been so important, and then all of a sudden there's this drop off where people just don't care? Where do you think that's from?
I think partially, dreams is a very personal and kind of like metaphysical thing, and it's not very easy to measure and like get consistent scientific data on. So I think over the years, it's like lost validity, like in modern day culture, because this is something that, like, years ago they used to value a lot. It was like a big part of cultures and like spiritual practices, and it's kind of like not as much the case anymore. I mean, it still is in some places. But I think that's going to change. I think that people are starting to realize the value in it again. So I'm
Yeah.
excited for that.
Me too, absolutely. And I forget about that part, I forget that there's literally whole departments and companies out there, organizations that are studying this. And I saw on your TikTok that you were just at a conference. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yes, it was awesome. So, yeah, it's the International Association for the Study of Dreams. They get together with a lot of like researchers, scientists, even like artists, and just different creators that all do dream related things. And we all like, they show the latest studies, and they had an art gallery. And what I really liked about it was that it combined like the art, the science, and the spirituality.
Mm.
And yeah, it was really fun. They do it every year. So hopefully I can keep going.
Yeah, where was it, by the way?
That one was in Oregon. Next year it's in Europe. Every couple years they do one in Europe because they have like a team in
The
in
Netherlands, right?
the Netherlands, yeah.
Yeah,
And
I
then
saw
it'll
that.
be in the
Okay.
States again. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I saw that. I think it was like 2 days ago. I ran into it and I'm like, the Netherlands, that's like really far from me.
I know. Yeah, I wish I could go, but
One
when it's
day.
back in the States, I'll be able to go again.
Exactly, exactly. So, I want to bring up your TikTok videos. So you like hit every point of dreams, every question that people have. You got a video for it. It's like a dream encyclopedia. I love it. So, I would say the most interesting so far that I can remember right now is the one where people kind of, you know, uh, ex- they basically assume that it's something negative when they're lucid dreaming and they meet someone who is aware that they're there. So tell me about, in your opinion, is it a bad thing that someone recognizes you in your dream?
No, I don't think so at all. I mean, I talk to my dream characters all the time, and it's so fun. It's one of my favorite things to do when I'm lucid dreaming is to talk to them and be like, "Oh, I'm dreaming. Like, look at me. Look what I can do." And,
Yeah.
just have fun with my dream characters. But I see that a lot online. And like I said earlier, how like dreams are thought responsive. If you have this expectation and idea in your head that like, "Oh, my dream characters are going to freak out if I do X, Y, and Z," then that's going to play out because that's literally what you're thinking and you're creating the dream as you go. And that belief is like impacting the dream. So I try not to like let people spread that type of stuff online because dreams are about experimenting. Like you're safe, nothing's going to happen.
Yeah.
Even if your dream gets kind of creepy, like that's normal. You're still going to wake up.
I think the best part of dreaming in general is interpreting it, finding out what you're supposed to know. I hate the word supposed, but what's being told to you. A perfect example for me is I've always had these dark water dreams. Sometimes it's a tsunami, sometimes it's just a really black lake. Sometimes it's dark blue. It's just something ominous, in my opinion. At least that's the emotions that come up in my dream. I realized I was like, okay, this obviously is a symbol for something. So what would happen if I purposely submerge myself in this water and face my fear? And there's a couple of dreams where I did it successfully, but then I would wake up right after. So I'm just like, okay, couldn't really use that one. And there's a couple of dreams where I look at the water, I'm like, hell no, I'm not jumping in there. I don't know what's in that water. But I was speaking to a friend recently and she was like, it's a symbol for a portal normally, not a symbol for, you shouldn't look at it as a symbol for fear, but a symbol as the underworld in a way. And the way she explained it was so perfect. She used a couple of things in history that I think the Aztecs are one of them where they would use water basins. I think it was sinkholes, actually. I'm sorry, sinkholes. And they would say that they would throw their dead in there and things that they loved in there because it was a portal to the underworld or a portal to another world. And she was just like, why don't you just submerge yourself and see what's on the other side instead of worrying about, actually coming up from the top. So it was really interesting. And I feel like that's so cool about dreams because it makes you think about things differently. And I'll get there one day. I'll get to that point where I feel comfortable enough to submerge myself and actually get to the next level, but I'm still working on it. Still working on it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm excited to see when you make. I'm sure it'll happen.
Yeah, for sure. And it's funny because so my TikTok name and my Instagram name is Dreamwalker, right? So I chose that, just kind of came up, like most things, whenever you kind of like go with the flow. I realized afterwards, I would say maybe 3 days ago, what the actual term Dreamwalker meant. And I was like, oh, so me being a lucid dreamer, me having this connection with dreams in general, now I have this name that I'm connected to that fits me so perfectly right now in my life. So, can you tell me, has there been a time in your life where your dreams have acted as a synchronicity to something that you're working on during the day or when you're awake?
Yeah, all the time. Like sometimes it'll be like I'll see something in my dream that gives me an idea for something that I'm working on. And sometimes it won't even make sense in the dream until I see something in waking life that kind of makes it click. And I'm like, oh, like here's an
Yeah.
idea. And then there'll also be just like weird moments where like I'll be in a situation that I remember that I dreamt about. And then that becomes like important to me because I'm like, okay, this person or whatever I'm doing in this moment has something to do with my path that I
Mhm.
need to pay attention to.
I feel like there's just so much. So we talked about prophetic dreams. We talked about symbolism with Carl Jung. Did you ever really have a connection with Sigmund Freud?
I read about him and stuff. I love the fact that he created like a foundation for a lot of what we do today. And of course, like a lot of his theories have been, edited and debunked or whatever. And a lot of his dream symbols were just very sexual. Like he was, I don't know, either he was very horny or he just thought that we were all very sexually repressed, which is funny. But given the context of the time, I'm thankful that he set a standard or started to open up the doors for us to like look at dreams in like a psychological way. So I think it's cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I'm sure you've talked to someone who said, you know what, it's really cool that you're interested in dreams, but I don't dream.
Yeah. Yeah,
Which
it
I,
happens.
yeah, yeah. So I personally, I believe everyone dreams. I just think some people don't remember them for one reason or another, you know? So what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I mean, I agree, exactly what you just said. Like, we all dream. And, like, I'll usually ask people, like, well, have you ever had a dream ever? And they'll usually be like, yeah, 10 years ago or a couple months ago or whatever. So, like, usually I'll kind of like ask them what kind of things have been going on in their life because sometimes there's a reason we don't dream. Either there's something that you're not listening to in your dreams, or you need to go back to a time in your life where you were dreaming and see what has happened or what kind of things subconsciously you need to work through. It's kind of like a defense mechanism. If we're not working through things, our dreams will kind of give us a break. And then there's people that like smoke weed, which can suppress your dreams. So I always ask people that just to try to rule it out. But yeah, there's a lot of different reasons. But if you start to try to remember your dreams, and once you start to care about it, then chances are you'll start to like wake up your dream life.
Absolutely. The unfortunate thing is a lot of people don't care because it's hard to interpret your dreams. It
Exactly.
takes time and patience to do so. You know, you have to
Yeah.
actually set aside the time. So it's just everyone's day to day. They're just like, you know what, I'm not gonna pull aside 10 minutes of my morning just to write down my dreams that were so completely out of the ordinary and random. So I just think it does take a certain type of person that cares enough about their mental well-being ultimately, because that's what it connects to.
Yeah,
But
for sure. It's
yeah.
definitely a task, but it's worth it in my opinion.
Absolutely, absolutely. So tell me about what you're doing right now, because I know you're interested in the dream world, obviously. You have a podcast. Is it on Spotify and
Yeah, it's
okay.
on Spotify, all the platforms, YouTube, Apple, whatever. And then yeah, mostly just doing that. Like I love connecting, like doing things like this, connecting with other people that make dream
Yeah.
content and spiritual content online and just kind of grow the community. I'm also doing some in-person dream groups, like some dream share groups in my
Mhm.
city and a couple like retreats that I'm planning for the year. So just different projects like with different people that I meet that are into dreams and I just love getting involved in things, especially dream related things. So yeah.
Awesome, awesome. That's really great. So I love the idea of the retreat, especially a dream retreat. I can't even picture what that would be about. And I know I already want to be there. I'll be honest with you. Like
You
it
would love it. You would love it. It was awesome. Like we had one already,
yeah.
and it was all women, so it was like really cool, intimate, safe, and we all had like a really good time. We like talked about dreams, so like every morning we would have like a dream share, and we would talk about what we dreamt, and we would analyze each person's dream. It was only like less than 10 people, so we had time to really dive deep into everybody's situation, and it was like therapy for like a whole weekend, and we had like dream herbs and teas and different meditations and things. So like it was really fun.
Awesome. That sounds amazing. So my dreams are really interesting. And the reason why I became so fascinated is because throughout my life, I would have these dreams that I now know were prophetic dreams, but at the time I didn't know. And it would be a perfect example. most important example to me is when my mom passed away. So in my dream, I'm seeing her falling back into this dark abyss, and she is very obviously deceased because this dark abyss basically engulfs her and she's completely disappeared. So when I woke up from that dream, I waited for her to wake up, and then I called her and I was like, Mom, I love you. I had a dream that you died, you were wearing this, you were doing this, et cetera, et cetera. And I would say about 2 months later, it happened. She went into cardiac arrest, and she basically, the way that she passed was falling back and clutching her chest. So that's how she passed, and it was a dream. And that was the most recent one that was a huge turning point in my life. Before that, it was seeing my husband, it was meeting my father, my biological father. Didn't know that guy existed. Um, and like little things here and there when I was a kid. So dreams to me have always, in a way, been this sort of cradle for me, like a warning for me to get ready because my world is about to shift, and I'm happy now that I see that. I'm 33 now, and I'm able to kind of say, holy crap, like pay attention to your dreams, because it's a way for our higher self to say, you know what, everything's going to work out no matter what, but this shit is about to so shit's about to change. So hopefully I can curse on your podcast. Is that okay?
Yeah, no, it's
Okay,
fine.
okay. I don't want you to have to go through and start bleeping things out.
No, it's fine.
um but no, I absolutely love my dreams. I'm actually excited to go to sleep every night, and sometimes I wake up a little disappointed because I'm like, dang it, how did I have so many dark water dreams my entire life, and then now that I want to have them, they're not coming.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I feel like that's what our subconscious does sometimes. As soon as you figure out a symbol or an archetype, that, a pattern, and then you think you got it, and then next thing you know, it changes. Have you ever
Yeah.
experienced that?
Yeah, for sure. Dreams kind of play little tricks on us. They're
Yeah.
almost like little riddles. And
Mhm,
that's why it's like an ongoing thing. And it's kind of like a little challenge. A lot of times, if I'm trying to do something in my dream, it takes me a while to really be able to fully figure it out.
mhm.
So, yeah, that's interesting. How often do you get lucid in your dreams?
Oh, not very often.
Okay.
I would say the last time, probably months and months ago. And I think maybe a total, and I can't tell you a total of my entire life, but maybe 5 in the last couple years. So not too many.
Okay. Okay.
And to be honest with you, what's really interesting about lucid dreaming, because I think our definition is very like black and white when it really is a little gray, where we think that lucid dreaming means that we have full control over what we do. But I do
Right.
think that there's parts, because I dream in segments. I have different stories in my dreams. There's different things happening. I think there's parts of my dream where I am lucid and parts where I'm not lucid. And, that goes into me dream walking and being other people a lot of the times. Like the craziest time I would say is waking up and thinking that I had killed someone. Because in my dream, I killed someone. I buried them and everything. And when I tell you that emotion, holy crap, the feeling inside of my chest of basically pure dread that I had killed someone. And now that my life was going to be, I mean, when I woke up, I literally was getting ready to go to prison. Like, I was like, what do I do?
No.
You know,
It's
how do I tell my mom?
crazy.
Yeah, it's
And
crazy.
you
But
really
that's,
feel it when you wake up too. That's wild.
it is wild. And I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. Like when it just follows you throughout the day because the dream was so real.
Yeah, for sure. And I love what you said about lucid dreaming, like being more of like a spectrum, because a lot of people think it, like you said, that it means you can control the dream, but lucid dreaming just means you know that it's a dream. So you
Mhm.
could be semi lucid and then you can become lucid and then you can go back to normal dreaming and it can change all in one dream.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's definitely a spectrum.
It is, absolutely. So, okay, so have you heard about the whole thing about that when people dream, they don't dream in color, they dream in black and white? Yeah.
I know it's a small percent of population, and also some people just have them randomly. Like I remember speaking to somebody that said that when they're depressed, they have black and white dreams, which I thought was cool.
Mm.
Um, Older people that maybe had black and white TV or newspapers or something are more likely to dream in black and white. And then, yeah, I don't know. I've had like one black and white dream ever, and I think I did it on purpose just to like see what it would
Just
look like.
because.
But for the most part, I see vivid, vivid colors.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I wouldn't mind having a black and white dream. I would start getting a little upset if it stayed that way though, because I like my vivid colors, you know.
Yeah,
That's
same.
really cool to me. Okay, let's see. How far do you think we can go in dreams, to be honest with you? Like what's the most you think we can do? Because I'm sure you've heard of astral projection, right? Okay.
Yeah,
Astral projection basically is allowing your body to, and this is just for listeners, allowing your body to stay in one place while your astral form leaves and kind of floats and does whatever it needs to do and things like that. It's very similar to dreaming in a way. Do you feel like there is an end to dreaming that we have, if you know what I mean? Or is
yeah.
a limit?
I think the limit is largely based on what we place on ourselves. I definitely believe that like astral projection and dreaming are kind of related because when we're dreaming, especially when we're lucid, we're like leaving our physical bodies. We're seeing a dimension from a different vantage point that we're not awake, or we can be in other bodies or other characters, like you said. So I think that we can go places for sure. We can visit other dimensions and travel the physical realm, the astral realm. I mean, and maybe there's levels to it. I don't know the exact makeup of the astral world, but I'm sure there's levels to how far we can go. And
Mhm.
maybe there's places that humans are not allowed to go, which is one of the things in my dream that I told you about earlier, that they told me that there's like certain places humans can't go. I think if you're determined and you have willpower, that'll guide you anywhere you want to go. So I think the limits are based like what we place on ourselves.
I like that. That's really cool. I think it's also like a vibration thing too. I think that sometimes we just aren't ready.
Yeah,
You know, I don't like that saying, you're not ready, things like that. Sometimes we're just not open enough to accept what we're seeing, and it might actually do more damage than good. So
that's true.
yeah, it does make sense.
Yeah,
So,
and there's a lot out there that we don't understand, and like our brains literally cannot compute certain things.
and
So
not
I
compute.
think, our dreams kind of protect us from things like,
Yeah.
the secrets of the universe that we can't handle.
Hmm. I love
So,
that neon light behind you, by the way. It keeps coming in and out of
oh,
focus.
thank you.
It's so
Yeah, I
cool.
have my background blurred. I should have unblurred it because it's kind of cute.
Yeah, that's really cute. That's awesome.
Thank you.
So, what's the next step in your opinion? Like, what are you doing next? 'Cause I know you're doing the retreats. You have your podcast. You said you are also. What am I missing there?
And then I'm kind of getting involved in some research that's just now starting. So I'm just trying to, meet people and see where it takes me.
Can you tell me a little bit about that, or is it kind of like a little bit of a secret right now?
Yeah, no, it's not a
Okay.
secret. It's just very new, so we haven't like officially launched anything. We did like kind of like a pre-trial of some preliminary data. It's very basic right now. We're just doing like lucid dream induction, trying to find out what works for people. We're kind of building a model of like a program that people can join and like participate in research while also holding themselves accountable and finding out what works for them and build a dream journal and build their own practice.
Hmm.
So yeah, I'll definitely keep you posted when we launch, but it's going to be like an online experiment. So like survey reporting, just to gather data about like what helps people get lucid and what dream journaling methods work. So that's going to be really exciting. And then I'm also doing an online course that'll kind of go in combination with that. So yeah.
Awesome. That's good to hear. And I think without even trying, you're going to be tapping into a world of people who have some major trauma that they want to help heal when it comes to dreams. Are you limiting yourself with that? Because I know it can be like a big liability and it starts going into healthcare and things like that, especially mental health. Or is that something that is what you plan on working into?
Yeah, I definitely plan on working into it. Like you said, there's definitely like a boundary with like giving people advice and
Right.
medical advice and that kind of stuff. But I think I do want to provide resources for people. Like I can provide information and people can do their own research and build their own practice. I'm just giving you tools, and then helping people, just kind of guiding them on their journey. But part of my online course, like it's mostly about lucid dreaming, but there's a section on dream analysis and how to analyze your dreams and how to use your dreams for shadow work and trauma healing and things like that. And I provide a lot of like papers and research studies and things like that. Like I don't have all the information, but I've been doing this for a while, so I know a lot of good resources and I just want to share them with people so they can kind of, figure it out for themselves as well.
Awesome. That's really good to hear. No, I really appreciate you holding that space for people because, like we talked about earlier, dreams just aren't really talked about enough. And I think it could really help people grow and heal and things like that. So, especially holding space for people to listen to share their dreams. I know that, and maybe this is just me, but I feel like a lot of people just don't care about other people's dreams because they can't even interpret their own. So it's just like, they're just like, oh, that's great anyways. So, you
Yeah,
know,
they don't really understand. I get excited when people tell me their dreams. I'm like, yes,
yeah.
tell me.
It's like, you did what? Okay, what? It's like, are you okay? Like, because it seems
Yeah.
like there's an obvious message there, you know? Like when I tell people about the dark water in my dreams, they're just like, "Do you feel overwhelmed? Are you depressed?" And I was just like, "I don't think it's that literal, but possibly, we'll maybe like I'll figure it out and I'll let you know. I'll update you." So, no, I
Yeah,
think it's
dreams are
awesome.
not always literal. It's usually some metaphorical thing. And
Exactly.
like other people can help you give perspectives and stuff, but
Yeah.
yeah, only the dreamer really knows.
Only the dreamer knows. I like that. We should
Yeah.
use that somewhere. Only the dreamer knows.
Yeah, that's a good
Really
little tagline.
it's yours, so
I'm sharing everything. I'm trying to, spread the love.
that's awesome. No, I really do appreciate that. Thank you so much. And I appreciate you for taking time out of your night after work and, speaking with me about both of I guess, our favorite topic, dreams,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. You too. You ask such great questions. I love getting into these topics.
Thank you. Yeah, we have to do this again. So I'm actually gonna go binge watch your TikTok videos because as I was scrolling, I saw some really interesting things, and I'm like, all right, I need to go back and comment on a couple of these things. So, let's see. You can find me on TikTok at Dreamwalker, and on Instagram at Dreamwalker Tenesha. Let's see. I have a Facebook, and it's Dreamwalker Chronicles. You can see the different phases I've gone through there, right? But I'll also go ahead and send you the links as well. That way you can share it.
And then you can find me at the dreamworldpodcast.com. Um, and that's the same on Instagram, the Dream World Podcast. And it should pop up on TikTok too. So, yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you.
You too.
All
Bye.
right. Bye-bye.